Hello, hello. This video is going to net you the most bang for your buck, FPS-wise, on the new Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2. Quick disclaimer, we will be putting all the settings to the absolute lowest, so the game's going to lose a little bit of its beautiful shine. So if you're one of those players that really like to play on the very, very high settings so it looks beautiful, maybe this guide isn't for you. But you can try it anyway if you want. But this is all about getting the game running at the highest FPS we can try and get, and it running smooth. But anyways, enough of the rambling. You'll be able to find this .zip folder in the description below. You can download it, no problem. Once you've got it, you want to extract it onto your desktop. Inside here, there's going to be a whole bunch of different stuff. First of all, this config file here, credit to Freefy. He's the boss who made it. He's really good at what he does. Go check him out. His link's in the description. So you want your guide folder on the right, and then you want to go ahead and open another file explorer and start to navigate to your documents. In there, you'll notice there's a folder called Call of Duty. Just that. You don't want to be going to this one. Go to the Call of Duty folder. Once you're in there, click Players. And then you will see there is an options.3.cod22.cst file. This is the file that contains all your in-game settings. So what I'd recommend you doing is right-click, copying that, paste it onto your desktop or somewhere safe, as that's your backup. If you don't like anything that happens in this guide, you can just drag this back in and you'll get your old settings back. But in the FPS guide folder, there's a custom config here, and what you're going to want to do is copy that, paste it in here, and you're going to want to replace the file in the destination. So what you want to do is you want to right-click this file. You want to click Open With, and then you're going to choose an app like Notepad. And then you're going to click OK. And then this is going to open up all this information. If you scroll all the way down to the bottom, you will see just one above the bottom, it'll say this, thread count for handling the job queue. So this should be a hashtag for you. Mine says 4. You're going to change this to a number that's suited for your PC. So to find out what number to put there, what you want to do is you want to open up your task manager. You can do that by pressing Ctrl-Alt-Delete. And you want to go to Performance. Click on where it says CPU. And then down here, you'll see it says Cores and Logical Processors. You want to be looking at the Cores section. Mine says 6. So what you want to do is you want to start with half. So because mine says 6, I'd put 3 here and I'd save that. If yours says 8 here, you'd put 4 there and you'd save that. But the reason mine says 4 is because I want you to experiment with this, right? So start with half, and then what I want you to do is run a benchmark. Like, you know, say if you start at 3, I want you to run a benchmark at 3, then come back into this file, change it to 4, close your game, restart, and run another benchmark. Change it to 5, close your game, run another benchmark, change it to 6, and so forth. Don't go above your core limit, so I wouldn't ever try above 6, but just try from half onwards. So I tried 3, 4, 5, and 6, and it turned out that for my system, 4 got me the most FPS by just a couple. So it's worth just running multiple benchmarks, and you can do that in the Modern Warfare game itself. It has a benchmark thing under the quick play section. So I know it's a little bit tedious, but it's worth your time. Just remember, when you are changing this setting and you're saving it, just go to File, Save, and then make sure you close your game and reopen it every time you actually edit this so that it sticks. And then just run the benchmark and just choose the number that you're getting the most FPS on. It's as simple as that. So once you've done that, you can actually just close out of this, as I don't really need to explain what all these do. It's just mostly the lowest settings on everything. So once you've actually done that, you can have a look in the quick notes, and this basically just has a very brief step-by-step guide like I'm doing on this video, but in text form. So what you want to do now is you want to open Modern Warfare 2 and let the shaders install fully, and you'll know if the shaders are installing because when you go in the game, give that a second to load up on the screen. Up here, somewhere in the top left, it'll say like installing or pre-installing shaders and then a percentage. Once that gets to 100%, you can just quit out your game. If you've played Modern Warfare before on your current drivers, the chances are that you've already installed them, so you don't need to worry about that. The next step would actually be uninstalling the current NVIDIA drivers you're on. And this is because we're going to do something called NVIDIA Sharpening. And to do that, you need to be on a fresh driver. So it doesn't matter what driver you go to. It can be newer or older. It just cannot be the same driver that you're currently on. I would recommend 522.25 right now because it's stable as of recording. But in the future, this is going to be outdated and, you know, you probably just want to go on the newest driver available. So to do this, you don't want to just regularly uninstall your driver. You want to do something which is called a DDU uninstall. So what you want to do is go to the Modern Warfare FPS guide that I provided, double click this exe file here, click extract, and then it'll make a new folder. And then inside there, you've got an exe file which you can open. So just click OK, close OK, and then what we're going to do is just going to look at this. When you do this, you actually want to do this in Windows safe mode. So you don't want to do this in normal Windows, you want to be in safe mode. And to do this, you hit Windows key and R. In here, type msconfig, click OK, go to boot, and then tick this safe boot here, apply, and then when you restart your PC will boot into safe mode. And that's when you want to open up this display driver.exe and then basically follow the instructions either on this video or through these screenshot instructions here where I've done them in screenshot form. So what you want to do is you want to go to select device type, you click GPU, and then obviously you've probably got NVIDIA. If you've got AMD, you can skip this process completely. You don't need to uninstall because with AMD you can actually apply sharpening from your AMD software, so make sure you do that. This is for NVIDIA GPU users only at the moment. So you select NVIDIA and then obviously you're in safe mode and then you click clean and restart and then it'll do its thing, and then when you get back into Windows you'll have no NVIDIA drivers. So what you'll have to do is you'll have to go to Google, download some new drivers. Just make sure they're not the same ones as you was on before. Make sure they're either newer or older. You've just installed your new drivers. Do not open Call of Duty yet, because if you open Call of Duty and it starts installing the shaders, it'll bug out and you have to do it all over again. So before you open Call of Duty, what you want to do is see this file here that says NVIDIA enable old sharpening. Double click it, click yes, and that'll basically add a registry key. And what that does is it adds something in your NVIDIA control panel. So just to prove, this is from Freefy, by the way, so it's trusted. And if you open it in Notepad, you can see there's no malicious code in here. It's just simply editing a registry edit key, which you could do you could do it without this registry file, to be honest. This just makes it easier. Nothing fishy at all. It works and it adds something to your NVIDIA control panel. So once you've done that, you just right click and you go to NVIDIA control panel. Once this loads, go to Manage 3D Settings and then tab over to the Program Settings. And you want to find Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2. If you can't find it, you may need to click Add and find the .exe file. To do that, you can click Browse and then just go to wherever it's installed. Mine's on battle.net, so I'll go to Call of Duty, Retail, and then cod.exe. Okay, so once you've done that, this setting will now be available called Image Sharpening. You want to click on it and put this to 0.25 and then ignore film grain on 0.15 and then click OK. And then you can click apply down here if it asks you to, and then you can close that off. What you do now is go to NVIDIA Profile Inspector by double clicking this. It will open up something that looks a little bit like this. And now all you got to do is, first of all, there is a little button here that's like a magnifying glass. Click that once, and then go over to here, press backspace so there's nothing there, and just type in call. And then you'll see, if you scroll down, that there's Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 2022. Click that. And then if you scroll down, you will see there is some stuff that you can edit, if I can find it. Yep, here we go. So again, in the screenshot instructions, you can see exactly what you need to change here. It's stated, but I'm going to show you in this video as well. So you want to look for where it says F00BA. What you want to do is click here like this and change it to the one that says like Battlefield v F1 2022, whatever. F00BB, do the same thing to this Battlefield v Assassin's Creed Valhalla one. And then F00FF, click down and then go to the Battlefield one as well. So once you've done that, you can click Apply Changes up in the top right corner, and then you can close that off. Going back to the quick notes, we've already done this COD config part, so we don't need to worry about that. The next thing you're going to want to do is just simply open up your game. So as your game's loaded, you'll probably see in the top left that it says it's pre-installing or installing the shaders, whatever it says. That's perfectly fine. Just let that do its thing and get to 100%. In the meantime, you can go to your settings and you can see that everything should have changed. So just as usual, make sure you're running on the correct monitor, the highest refresh rate possible. And then what you want to do is check your quality, and you'll see that everything's on like very low and low. Some things like clutter draw distance, you'll see that nothing is selected. This is perfectly fine. This has happened because in the config, it's been set lower than the game will actually allow it to be set. So just leave it as it is. It works perfectly fine. Other than that, an honorable mention would be to go to the View tab, and on the field of view, make sure you're running 115. If you're running 120, there's like a weird like bug in the engine where it can make your game look a little bit worse. So I would advise going to 115. It's not a huge difference from 120, and your game will look a little bit better. All right, so what you actually want to do is you want to head over to the quality tab, and then I believe when you launch, this will be set to off where it says upscaling and sharpening. So what you will do is you will click it, you'll go to Fidelity FX CAS, show more, and then you can set this to your liking. I like it between 30 and 40, but some people like it all the way up. This is basically going to just sharpen your game, and it's going to help you see people in the game because the visibility is quite bad. So that should do you very well. Other than that, all these settings are fine. You can click apply and you can just continue playing your game as intended. And you should get relatively good FPS. So if I quickly go to my screenshot where I did a bench, I don't have the greatest system in the world. I have a 1080 Ti and an i7-8700K. So it's not terrible, but it's by today's standards, it's getting there. It's outdated. It's becoming an old man. I was running a 161 average, which, you might be happy with. And you might want to play like that, but you can actually push a little bit more out of this game, but your game will look a tiny bit worse. So it's, like I say, it's give and take. If you can manage with the game looking a little bit worse, and you want like a decent FPS boost, then that is possible, because I ran one after making the following changes, and I was getting 190 average, and the game just felt a lot better, because that's like a 30 FPS increase, so it's kind of large. And I'm just going to walk you through what I did to make that possible. So instead of Fidelity FX CAS in this sharpening section, what you want to do is you want to go to AMD FSR 1.0, and don't worry, you don't have to have an AMD card or anything for this. You can do this on my video. Click show more, put this to ultra quality. I've heard people having, decent experiences on quality, especially if they're on 1440p. But if you're on like 1080p or 4K, ultra quality is probably going to look the best. But like I say, every system's slightly different when it comes to this Call of Duty. So just test between the two, quality and ultra quality, see which looks best for you. And don't worry about the performance much, as when I've been benchmarking personally, there's not been a humongous FPS difference between each one of these, like maybe 2 FPS or something, or even less. But ultra quality looked the best for me, so that's what I chose. Another thing I almost forgot to mention as well is when you're using this AMD FSR, make sure that your render resolution is on 100 and no less. If it's less than 100 and you can't edit it because you've got this on, just turn it off, then edit it to 100 and then put it back on and make sure you're still on ultra quality. So with anti-aliasing, this is an interesting one. So there's only a couple FPS differences from my benchmarks. As previously said, make sure you do the benchmarks on all these settings yourselves, because it might be a bigger difference than mine. But I only lost like 2 FPS by going to Filmic, and the difference Filmic made to me was like worth it for 2 FPS. It might not be for everyone, but if you go back into the folder that you downloaded and go to in-game screenshots and go to the Filmic sample, you will see that this is with no Filmic, and then that's with Filmic. So on the video, you might not be able to see much, but what I want you to do is pay close attention to this area here under the picture where there's like dots. So basically, whenever there is a shadow in the game and it's on the normal setting, which is just this SMAA one and not the Filmic, it'll just look like really dotted and awful and awkward, like blotchy shadows. If you have Filmic on, it kind of smooths them out a little bit. Not perfectly, but it smooths them out a lot more, so it's a little bit less distracting, which is why I prefer to play on Filmic. So that's what I run. I run Filmic SMAA T2X. I run it on the ultra quality on the AMD preset. And then you can test your game out like this, but I also quite liked to put the aliasing quality to ultra quality. And I know what you're going to think. You'd think like, what? That's going to tank your FPS loads. But surprisingly for me, it didn't. And there was barely an FPS difference in all of these. And ultra quality just smoothed out my game a little bit more, because what you're doing was, when you're using this AMD FSR, you're actually reducing the resolution of your game, and you're kind of like artificially boosting it upwards. So I'm going to take every little help I can get with like smoothing the jagged edges, because if you don't have any of these stuff on, you know, the edges of all the shapes are going to be really sharp and jagged, and it's going to look kind of weird. One additional thing that I did when I was on the AMD like upscale FSR as well is I right clicked, went to NVIDIA control panel, and I went and changed the image sharpening, just because when you're using the AMD one, you're no longer using the CAS sharpening. So what you want to do is go back to Call of Duty on the program settings, and instead of like the 0.25 that I told you to do originally, I upped that to 0.75, kept the ignore film grain to 0.15, click OK, apply or whatever, and then restart your game, and you should have a nicer looking game. I'll even go in a quick game now, and I'll just show you how it looks on the video. But of course, you'll want to test this yourself. Go into a game, because looking over a compressed YouTube video, it's not the best, and it's not going to be exactly what you're going to experience. But I'm just going to show you that it's not actually terrible. And yeah, to summarize it, I know I've rambled on a lot, but every time you're changing minuscule things and settings, make sure you're testing them on the benchmark, just to see that you are truly getting more FPS, because that's all that matters. I know the benchmark isn't exactly a true representative of your FPS on like every single map in the game, but it's good to test setting to setting to see which is actually getting you more FPS and which is making you lose FPS. So always reference this every single time you make a change to any of your settings, and base your decision off that.